Dear Aunt Flo is a podcast about bad periods, and I'm your host, Elisa Michelle. Every month, we'll dive deep into my own vagina monologues as I discuss my journey with endometriosis and share stories that we wish someone would have warned us about sooner. I am your new period BFF, so let's get comfortable speaking about our cycles. What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Dear Aunt Flo. Our first one of 2025 is a month late because I've been unwell. I've been trying to figure out how to explain to people like what's been happening when they ask like how I am or how I'm doing or like how I've been. And I don't know how to qualify it. Like, I wasn't sick, like when you have the flu or like a virus. I just wasn't healthy. Like, my health wasn't good. I don't know. I was unwell. I was on medical leave. Like, I don't know what to say. But either way, January was a rough month. And that is an understatement. So today's episode is going to probably be longer than normal. I debated, well, actually my husband said that maybe I should break it up into 2 parts. But honestly, like, I just want to tell the story, get through it, and then get over it. You know, like, get past it, move on, and figure out what's next for me. So I'm going to do my best to describe what transpired between December 23rd, 2024 until basically now. Today is the day that I'm recording is February 5th, 2025, but this will probably come out the following Tuesday, whatever date that is. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but today, whatever day you're listening to this, is when this comes out, and I'm probably still going to be in whatever state that I'm in. So, what transpired between then? An entire month of my life. I ended up in the hospital. I'll share how I got there and what happened afterward. Be patient with me. I might cry. I might lose my words or just have trouble finding the right words to describe like what happened and the best way to explain how one routine or semi-routine procedure led to me losing an entire month of my life. If you're new here and you're just joining our period party, welcome. Whether you listen or watch, I hope that you interact with us in the comments. Like it, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, interact with me. Please let me know why you're tuning in, what you got from it. Share your own story. I want this to be an open forum community. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, hello. This is my voice. It's been like this since I was a wee child. It's funny because I used to get teased for my voice, and now here I am just like talking in public to people. Well, I'm not in public because I'm in the privacy of my own home, but I'm just publicly speaking, which is so funny to me how full circle things can happen. Anyway, back on topic. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, please leave a review. It's so helpful to other people finding this podcast, finding me, finding our community, finding our stories, sharing more stories. And that's what I want. I just want to openly talk about our period, talk about our period struggles, talk about our period wins, talk about our bodies and the ever-changing, ever-evolving complexity of a woman. So, yes. We'll start with our letter because it's short and sweet. Actually, it's short and not so sweet, but we'll start with our letter and then we'll get into what's been going on. So, dear Aunt Flo, you really out here showing your ass. Sincerely fed up, Elisa Michelle. Told you, short and not so sweet. Okay, so if you listened to my last episode, I talked about a procedure that I had called an HSG, which is a hysterosalpingogram. I'm just like winning with this word right now. I could just say it off the top of my head where I was struggling before, but now I know how to say it. So basically this procedure is where they insert a catheter through your uterus, inflate a balloon, and release a dye. And the dye is supposed to spill through your fallopian tubes and let you know that they are open and ready for business. In my case, the dye spilled through one tube and not the other. And so there was some speculation as to why that was. And we quickly found out. So once the procedure's done, like you may experience some like light cramping and discharge as the dye is removed and released from your body. I experienced this for a couple of days and then all seemed well. A few days later, however, I started feeling a lot of inflammation. I'm used to some inflammation from, eating the wrong foods or like right before my period starts, but this felt different. It felt as though like the inside of my stomach was on fire. Like it literally felt so warm, and not like to the touch, like my belly wasn't hot to the touch or anything, but I could feel the heat inside. Like I could feel it. It was hot. And I chalked this up to just being maybe like a delayed side effect of the HSG procedure. And I took some ibuprofen because that's what's supposed to be good for inflammation. And after a few days of having to do this, I also started experiencing bloating. And it was very uncomfortable bloating. And then I also started having more light discharge, which made me think that I was on my cycle again. Because normally, for me anyway, with having endo, I get a lot of old blood before I get the new blood. So I get a lot of like very light brown or brown colored discharge, which is old blood, before my period and after my period. So I was like, okay, period is back. She was off for maybe like 2 weeks and now she just wants to reemerge. Whatever. But then the next day, like nothing happened. And I was like, okay, God, what's happening to my body? I don't know. So on December 28th, I'm going to try to timestamp this because it helps me get through the story if I can like pinpoint what happened on what days. And I also have notes because I will lose my thought very quickly. Okay. So December 28th, my husband and I went out for beer at a local brewery because it was set to close its doors on December 31st. And this was one of our like favorite spots down in Barrio Logan. And so we wanted to go and support. So we had beer and we had fries and we people watched and it was such a great day. But then the days that followed, one, started my dry 2025. I'll talk about that probably in another episode. But I'm pretty sure that beer set my soul on fire. I had planned to braid my hair that week because new year, new hair, duh. And plus I wanted to take the month of January off to plan for 2025. It's usually what I do every year. I take January to reset, refocus, readjust, be in alignment. And one thing that helps me is having my hair braided, which I finally did yesterday. Well, yesterday to me, January 4th. February 4th. My goodness, I don't know the days. For me, it helps not having to do my hair because I love being a natural girly, a natural hair girly, but it's time consuming. And so if I can take one thing out of my day, which is hair, then like everything else is just like so much easier. So anyway, I had planned to braid my hair that week so that I could start the new year fresh and unencumbered. So I took the morning, this is now December 31st, I took the morning to wash, blow dry, detangle, part, twist up my hair, and prep it for braids. And a couple hours later, the inflammation and bloating came back with a vengeance. So on the afternoon of December 31st, I was sitting on my couch. I was reading This Could Be Us by Kenny D. Ryan. Highly recommend this book. It's a wonderful book. Anything by Kenny D. Ryan is a wonderful book. But anyway, I'm sitting, I'm reading, and I just start like shivering, shaking, like chills. Like I could not get my body warm. My feet were cold. And I'm just like reading and shaking. And I'm like, I know it's cold in here. Like my apartment gets cold when it's cold outside. So I'm like, it's just chilly, you know? It's just chilly in here. Maybe I should turn the space heater on. But I was so comfortable and reading and cozy. And then I was just like really shaking. Like my book was shaking to the point where I was like, okay, like something's wrong. And I had the bright idea to go and check my temperature. Not a bright idea. I checked it and it was 95.9. Now, a normal body temperature, we all know, is 98.6, sometimes 97.7. My body temperature was 95.9. And I said, okay, let's Google that. I know I've told you guys time and time again. I've told myself time and time again, do not Google your symptoms. But I did. I Googled, and it said that my temperature was low grade, but if it got below 95, that I needed to seek immediate attention or I would die. So I'm like, I'm hypothermic. I need to go to the ER. I need warm blankets immediately. Like, stat, do I need to call the ambulance? There's actually a hospital right across the street, but if I go to them, they're out of network, and I can't imagine what that bill would cost, so there's no way I'm doing that. My husband was at work, so I couldn't, like, call and freak him out. So I'm just like, I'm going to make some tea. So I make tea. Then I called my dad, who is not a doctor, but he's my dad. So I told him what was happening. We checked my temperature again. At this point, I had like slightly warmed up. And I checked my temperature with my dad on the phone, and I'm like, it's 102.9. Like it went from 95.9 to 102.9. And my dad's like, whoa. He was like, okay. He's like, take some Tylenol, see what happens in an hour. So I did that. About an hour or so later, he was like, call me back, let me know what's happening. My temperature went back down to normal. It was 98.4. By then, my husband came home. I called my dad back. I let him know, and he was like, all right, every 4 hours, take Tylenol, monitor, check your temperature, keep me posted. I also juggled with the idea of going to urgent care, but again, it was December 31st, New Year's Eve. I did not feel like being stuck in a place with other sick people on a holiday, quote unquote. It's probably crazy busy in there from all the other people who are feeling whatever they're feeling before the new year. So I was like, I'm just going to suck it up, take the Tylenol, see what happens. So for the next 2 days, my fever came and went, and then it finally went away. But the inflammation remained. And I mean, like, it was ever gradually intensifying. I was also experiencing extreme fatigue And then everything started mellowing out again. And I thought that I was on my way to better health. Now, a few days have gone by, almost a week. And then January 7th, my fever and chills came all the way back. I was on the couch again, and I started just like shivering and shaking out of nowhere. And I told my husband, and I was like, I think my fever's back. I don't know what's happening. I don't feel right. Same story, different day. At this point, I was just like, okay, something's seriously wrong. I had also at this point been in contact with my doctor's office and messaging them through the app and telling them like all the symptoms I was experiencing, asking like if there were certain side effects that are normal to having the HSG procedure and if I was experiencing that or if this was something else. And they chalked it up to being the virus that was going around. There was like a GI virus or a stomach bug that was floating around everywhere. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But at this point, I was also experiencing like this intense abdominal pain. So they also suggested that if it continued, to just go to the ER. So the evening of January 8th, so the following day, my husband took me to the ER because I was like, something's not right and I need to get checked out. And this is where it all went left. So one, hospital dumb crowded. Well, the ER was dumb crowded. So they wouldn't let my husband come in. They called him a support person. They wouldn't let me have a support person because the ER was too overcrowded. So he had to wait outside. Well, he waited in his car. At this point, we're still thinking it's the virus. So I'm masked up. He's masked up. I had to explain to the registration desk the symptoms I was having and why I was there, and then they take my info and then have me sit in the waiting area. And I was praying that I didn't have to wait forever, but again, it was crowded. So after a while, they called me to take my vitals and swab me for COVID. That came back negative. Then sent me back to the waiting area. Then eventually, they called me to take labs and draw blood, and then back to the waiting area. And then someone came to take me to get an x-ray, which was like a chest x-ray when I'm like, I have abdominal pain, so why are you x-raying up here when everything is happening down here? But I digress. And then you guessed it, back to the waiting area. And at this point, the guy also was just like, yeah, that's it. Like, and I was like, okay, but like, are they going to call me again to like take me back to a bed? He was like, oh yeah, I don't know. I think like you just do this and you wait for the results. Like you can probably just go home. I'm glad I didn't listen to him. So I went back to the waiting area and sat there. And then someone finally came to take me back to a bed. And then that ended up being a mix-up because the bed wasn't ready. So they had to take me back to the waiting area. And then finally someone came and took me back to the bed and also brought my husband back there too. Now, once you get to this point, like you get the bed, you're basically just waiting more. Okay, you're waiting for the nurse to come in and the doctor to come in. So we're waiting, we're trying to talk and like figure out what's happening. Also, like there's other patients all around with things happening. So you're kind of like trying not to listen to their problems, but you can't because everyone's next to each other. So everybody knows what's happening to everybody else. Somebody came in and brought me a warm blanket, which doesn't last warm very long. And then they ask you questions about your symptoms over and over again to make sure, I guess, that everyone's on the same page so that they know what's happening. They know what they're treating you for. And so someone came in, asked about all my symptoms, and then eventually a doctor came in and again asked me my symptoms and did like a pelvic exam by applying pressure to my stomach and to see where like any pain points were. And then he was like, okay, we're going to order a CT scan. So they took me back to the radiology department. Oh, and I had to pee in a cup. They took me back to the radiology department, did the CT scan. It's very quick and easy. They have to inject iodine in you. So it's a CT scan with a contrast, and that gives you like a better picture of everything that's happening inside. And then they sent me back to the bed. And then I'm waiting some more. And then eventually someone came to hook me up to an IV. And I was like, okay, this means that they're more than likely going to keep me here longer if they're hooking me up to an IV to give me fluids. And someone comes and tells me that the urine sample that I had to do came back with an infection. And then the doctor comes in and is like, okay, so we did your CT scan. We reviewed the CT scan and it shows. And like, as soon as he said it shows, my heart like dropped because I was like, I knew something was wrong and I felt in my heart that something was wrong. And I wish I didn't wait so long to get seen, but like, there's just all these different factors. Anyway, he said that it showed and my heart dropped. And then he said that you have an 8-centimeter either abscess or tubal ovarian cyst. And I was just like stunned for a bit. And I look at Mensa and I was like, how big is 8 centimeters? Because I'm like, all right, it's not 8 inches. It's 8 centimeters. And I'm trying to like picture a ruler in my head to figure out the measurements. But anyway, for context, 8 centimeters is about the size of a baseball. So think like this. I think that's pretty much how big the cyst is. And he mentioned that it might be the cause of all my abdominal pain, and the infection was causing a lot of the inflammation that I was experiencing and the bloating. And he said he was going to consult with a GYN, with my GYN. So he asked me the name of my doctor so that he could call over, speak to someone, and get a second opinion, because he felt that I should be transferred to the women and babies hospital to be looked at further. I will say that I was very appreciative of his like cause for concern and his care, just in the way, like, you know how most doctors are so quick to dismiss things, give you medication and send you on your way. Like, he was very intentional about seeking a second opinion with a GYN. And the way that he like described me when he called, it was very like refreshing. He was just like, oh yes, I have this very nice young lady. She's very sweet. And unfortunately, she's been experiencing ... ran down the list. We did a CT scan. It shows this. And I'm just hoping for you to review it and let me know what you think is the best course of action. After the phone call, I guess whoever was on call reviewed my scans, and they called back again, and they started the process to transfer me to the women's hospital, which is conveniently right next door. So it's literally just a long wheelchair ride through like some hallways and back entrances. So they rolled me over and set me up in a private room and let my hubby stay the night. And they hooked me up to an IV. They started me on antibiotics. And then the next 3 days were filled with a lot of poking and prodding and being woken up every like 4 hours to take medicine or draw blood or check my vitals, check my blood pressure and my temperature. I had about 9 different nurses, about 3 different doctors, 1 each day. The nurses, they switch out on 12-hour shifts. So I had a different set of 3 nurses every single day. So for 3 days, that's like 9 different nurses. The first night, the doctor told me that I couldn't drink or eat anything, not even water. And I was so dehydrated. I was so thirsty. But if it was an abscess, they had to determine whether they could drain it or whether it would have to be surgically removed. So if I had to have surgery, I couldn't have anything in my stomach. So the first official day of the hospital, at this point, it was late into the afternoon. A different doctor came in and told me that she was clearing me to eat, and she apologized for it taking so long so I could finally eat and drink. They also had me measuring every time I went to the bathroom. which is very annoying because you're hooked up to an IV, right? So you have to unplug it, wrap the cord around the pole to secure it, and then drag it to the bathroom, and then drag it back, and then unwrap the cord, and then plug it back in, and then get in bed. So it was a lot. But I also had about 3 different antibiotics going into me at once. 2 of them were every 12 hours, 1 was every 24 hours. So that already told me that I was going to be here for a few days. And they all started at different times. So it was just a lot going on at all hours of the night with switching out IV bags and medicines and all of these things. The IV also was very uncomfortable. I couldn't really bend my arm. Some of the medicine, like the antibiotics, were so strong, like I could feel them in my arm. Like, it was a very weird feeling. I didn't like that at all. And then also, on top of all of that, I start cramping because by then it's been probably 3 to 4 weeks since my last period, and my cycle is due to start in a couple days. So I developed this new pain on the left side of my pelvic area, which made sense because that's the side that the cyst was on. And they gave me pain meds for that too. I was finally able to eat dinner that night. Like, over the course of the first couple of weeks of January, I really wasn't eating much and I was just sleeping a lot. Having a full meal was great. It was underwhelming because it's hospital food, but nourishment, I guess. The next day, I saw a new set of nurses and a new doctor. This doctor came in literally saying she didn't know what the mass was, whether it was an abscess or a tubal ovarian cyst or an endometrioma. And I was like, how is that helpful? Like, what determines how you know what it is? Their main goal was to fight the infection. So the infection was causing all of this inflammation. Like, my uterus was angry, okay? She was angry from that procedure, and that procedure triggered the infection, and it was just causing all of this pain and commotion. And their main goal was to calm all of that down before they decided about anything, whether surgically or, just draining whatever they needed to drain. At this point, I'm continuing the antibiotics. I'm drinking loads of water and cranberry juice, and I'm walking a lot. Well, not a lot, but I'm being told I need to walk a lot because I developed a distended stomach. And a distended stomach is literally just like, I'm guessing from all the IV fluids that were going into me and not being released, were just causing my stomach to completely expand. It's deeper than bloating. It's not just bloating. Bloating is more like a empty feeling of discomfort. This was like, my stomach was full and I looked about 3 months pregnant. Luckily, I still have my husband, so he brought me fresh clothes. He brought me my microphone so I could do a little bit of vlogging. That's probably up on YouTube now, so you can watch that if you want to see like the first days of what was happening to me. He brought my computer so I could at least play music. They had a TV in the room, but it was like literally up on like the ceiling. And it was so uncomfortable to watch, and there was really nothing to watch. I wasn't in the mood to scroll social media or like talk to people, so I mostly just slept. And it was just a lot of like peeing and walking and sleeping and being poked and prodded. And like that was it for like 3 days. And then the last day, my actual doctor came to see me and let me know that I was being discharged. So she finally explained that the 8-centimeter mass that was conveniently located on my ovary was called an endometrioma, aka a chocolate cyst. And a chocolate cyst, it's called a chocolate cyst because it's literally just like a sack full of chocolate liquid, which is your old period blood. So you know how I mentioned that before my period and after my period, I get a lot of like brown or light brown discharge. That sac holds all of that old blood. And it's ever growing, apparently, because earlier last year in 2024, yes, the start of 2024, I had an MRI and it showed that I had a cyst, but it was very small, like less than a centimeter, I think. Now, a year later, you're telling me that it's 8 centimeters. So it has grown, and I just have more scar tissue and 2 fibroids, one on each side, and a polyp. So there's a lot going on in my uterus right now, and it is just overworked and underpaid. And yeah, and then on top of all of this, my doctor also decided to drop more bombs and discuss infertility and IVF, and then surgery. I had to time the surgery to be able to begin the IVF for it to be viable before all of the scar tissue comes back, because there's a 27% chance that it all will come back, even if it's surgically removed. And my likelihood of being able to naturally conceive was very low, and I could run the risk of having an ectopic pregnancy, which is when the baby grows outside of your uterus, and normally this happens like the baby grows inside your fallopian tube, which would cause the fallopian tube to burst and rupture, and we don't want that. So I'm giving all of this information in a very short, probably 20-minute time span, while I'm sitting in this hospital bed with the hospital gown and my back out and a water heating pad across my lap, because my cramps were starting and I was so hot and I was so overwhelmed, and like I'm being told all these things, and my stomach was distended and I'm cramping because my period's about to start. I didn't feel much better than I did when I came into the hospital. It was just a lot to process in a short amount of time. Like, I'm given these oral antibiotics. I'm told I can't have kids naturally. I'm unsure if I need to have surgery. I have to take these new meds for the next 2 weeks and finish them despite if I start feeling better. And then follow up in a week or so. Oh, and schedule an ultrasound to see if the cyst is still there at the same size or if it's grown any bigger. But I was able to go home. And that is what I focused on. Just being able to go home to my own bed or to my own couch in the comfort of my own space. And home is where I went, and home is where I stayed, stuck for the next 2 weeks. At this point, we're halfway through January. I'm home, have a distended stomach still. I'm cramping from my cycle, which started the day after I got home from the hospital. And I'm on meds that completely shut my body down. I wasn't able to drive. I lost my appetite. I felt fatigue that I've never felt before. I was sensitive to sound, to light, to movement. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't look at my phone. I could barely listen to music. I put gospel music on because I just needed to be with God. And I had to have it on the lowest possible setting because I just couldn't take it. I couldn't stand straight up. Walking was very uncomfortable for me. I had to keep up with drinking loads of water and cranberry juice constantly. So I was forced to get up to pee constantly. Sleeping at night was hell. Sleeping during the day was scary because if I fell asleep, it was so hard to wake up. There were literal days where my husband would have to come and pull me up from the couch because I was just too weak to open my eyes, too weak to talk, too weak to move my own body, just completely incapacitated. And my breathing was quick and loud and short. And I know this probably scared him also, it is otherworldly to not be able to be in control of your body, and like not even in a sense of like you're having an out of body experience where you're like outside looking at you. Like I didn't even have that. Like I was just like gone. And my period pain was in full effect. So I was just like in constant pain. The abdominal pain had come back. And yeah, I mentioned losing my appetite to the point where like it didn't help my energy levels. Like I was just slowly fading away each day. And I thought the medicine was supposed to help me get better. And I was like, when is that supposed to start? Like, when do I start to feel more like myself? So 2 weeks, for 2 weeks, I struggled to exist. And we're already 2 weeks in to the new year. So this is another 2 weeks just gone. I struggled with phone calls from my parents who would call me like every day, twice a day sometimes, to check on me. I struggled with emails, processing all that was happening to me. I struggled with my faith and understanding why this was happening to me, but also wanting to lean so hard on God, wanting to talk to him and ask him and yell at him and pray with him and pray to him and just understand like what I was supposed to learn from all of this. I was losing muscle mass and body mass. I had a headache I couldn't shake. I was ingesting so much medicine, but like no nourishment. I think I was only able to like eat some fruit, and that's just to take the medicine because I suck at taking pills. I can't just like drink them. Like I have to have food, but I couldn't eat. So I would just like slice kiwi, or my husband would do it all, but kiwi or oranges just so I could swallow the medicine. He would, he cooked all this food and he was juicing all these fruits and vegetables, and I couldn't enjoy any of it. And this was just such a scary time in my life because I honestly wasn't sure if I would get better. I wasn't sure if this would be a recurring theme for 2025. I was scared for my health moving forward. I was scared for my ability to function like before. I was scared for my wherewithal to run my business again. I was scared for my independence. Like, this experience had me shook, and it still does. I'm still not completely healed. It took a week or so after the medicine was finished to regain my appetite, which now we're in like week 2 of that. Well, when you hear this, it'll be week 3 of the other side. My digestive system still isn't intact. My stomach is back to normal-ish size, but like my muscle mass is gone. My booty is gone. Like all that hard work of waking up at 5 a.m. and doing my devotions and working out, it's just like out of the window, like just gone. My energy is coming back. I drove for the first time in almost a month. Like I'm still not ready to fully like pop out and be social, which sucks because my birthday is like soon. By the time this comes out, it'll be the week of my birthday. I just feel like I'm in a twilight zone. Like I'm lucid, but I'm still not fully present. I'm just stuck in the uncertainty of my body. So I'm in limbo. I have to wait 2 more months to get another MRI done. And then a few weeks after that to meet with a consulting physician to discuss possible surgery options. I still don't think I've fully processed the fertility side of things or the infertility side of things. I don't know what this means for my desire to have children. I don't know if my cycles are going to change. I don't know how long I've had this massive cyst to this size. I don't know if it'll shrink. I don't know if it'll grow. I don't know if I'll be down again for another month because something might trigger something and set me back. Like I have so many unanswered thoughts and questions, and I don't know. I don't know anything right now, but I do know that I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that God kept me. I am grateful that I am here and I'm able to speak to you and I'm able to share my story and I'm able to shed light on a condition that literally is a whole body disease. Endometriosis takes up your entire life. It's no longer, for me anyway, it's no longer just the week of my cycle. It affects every single day of my life. So for now, I will work to regain my strength and my appetite and my health one day at a time. This year is going to be a strong focus on my overall holistic health. I joked to my husband and said I might become an herbalist at this point because I need to figure out what I need to do for my body that the earth that God provided, as opposed to relying on medicine that is just clearly making things worse for me. This month has been long and exhausting. And I pray that if you take anything away from my story, it's to listen to your body. When you feel like something isn't right, don't worry about anything else other than getting seen by someone who can give you answers. You only have one life. One. That's it. Be more conscious of what you're doing to maintain your health and your well-being. This episode has been very long, so I'm going to cut it here and we're going to get into our affirmation. Yeah, this has been my entire month of January. Now it's almost like a blur. I can't even believe that all of this has happened to me. And the world is just going. It's just going on like any other day or any other month or any other week or year. Affirmation. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. So say it with me. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I love you. I see you. I hear you. And I will catch you in the next episode. Hey BFFs, thanks for tuning in to Dear Aunt Flo. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to show support, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. This will help more period BFFs find our community and add to the conversation. Follow on IG at dearauntflo.pod and let me know what topics you'd like to cover this season. Catch you in the next episode, period.